14 of the Queer Lit Readathon is almost upon us, so I thought I'd give you some book recs. Hi, I'm Alex, this is Pucksandpaperbacks, where I love to shout about queer and trans books, and today I'm talking all about the Queer Lit Readathon. This is a readathon that I love. It's hosted by Rogan and Kathy. Round 14 is going to be happening from December 15th to the 21st. Of course, I'll be vlogging, and they have 3 co-hosts, Franny, Lizzie, and Caitlin. I'll have links to the readathon and the hosts down below if you want to check them out. There are so many book recommendations from the hosts themselves. There's a master list. I'm always looking for a chance to recommend some queer books, so since I've got some new faces over the last couple of months, I figured I would make this video to let you know about the readathon and to give you some recs. Of course, this is not an original idea by any means. My friend Audrey over at Perpetual Pages actually made a video like this for the last round of the Queer Lit Readathon, so I'll have that link below as well. Every round they have a bingo board. This is round 14's, so I'm gonna try to recommend you a book for every prompt that I can. Of course, I love options, so I have a few books for almost every prompt. There are some prompts that I can't fulfill, including drag. I just haven't read enough in that category, and gifted is open-ended. I can't recommend you anything for that, but I can try to recommend a book for the rest. If you're interested in any of the books that I've mentioned, the titles will be down below along with an affiliate link. It's no extra cost to you, but if you buy any of the books that I recommend in these videos, feel free to use my link. It really helps me out. Like I said, it's no extra cost to you, but it really helps support the channel, so thanks if you do. And now, to the books. Starting with disability rep, I have one of my favorite YA books, Cafe con Leche by Emery Lee. This could also work for disaster queers and food. We're following rivals Theo and Gabby, who both work at their parents' Puerto Rican bakeries, and they're trying to keep them afloat as there are boba shops opening up and closing the authentic businesses. Theo has ADHD and he is very chaotic, but he's so caring. He is so determined to create a menu that will work for his family's business to keep them running. Aside from that, the boys are on the soccer team. Gabby hates being on the soccer team. He would rather dance. And Theo is grappling with a lot of masculinity issues and his sexuality, as his parents have just not talked to him about his sexuality at all, versus Gabby is afraid to come out because of the things that his dad is saying around the house. This is such an incredible YA book, and I would love for you to pick it up for the readathon. If you're looking for nonfiction, I want to recommend The Pretty One by Kia Brown. She's a Black bisexual woman with cerebral palsy. This talks all about disability in media, living with cerebral palsy, and I just love this so much. She loves Paramore, so if you are a Paramore fan like me, I think you'll really resonate with Kia Brown and her thoughts. I really enjoy the way that she talks about being more inclusive and having better disability representation. So if that's something you're interested in, I highly recommend The Pretty One, and if you're able to have access to the audio, I highly recommend that as well. Next is a prompt I love: travel. I love to read road trip books and any books involving travel. However, I only have one recommendation for you. So I don't think I've read enough road trip books, and I really need to change that. For the readathon, I'm hoping to read Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane, so I'm actually gonna recommend Kiss Her Once for Me here. This is her holiday second chance sapphic romance that I ate up. I believe I read this in like 2 days. I was so engrossed in this book. It is perfect for a readathon. It has anxiety rep, which is some of my favorite representation that I've seen lately. If you like the movie Happiest Season with Kristen Stewart, this is pretty much that movie, but in a book. And I'm picking it for travel because we have 2 scenarios. First, we see our main character in New York and she is traveling, and that's basically how these 2 meet. And then they meet again. And so they're traveling for the holidays and they're in different places. Also, I believe the love interest lives out of an RV. So if that is not the epitome of travel, I don't know what is. Next is Genderbent Retelling. I have 2 things for this. First is Peter Darling by Austin Chant. This is a Peter Pan retelling. It is trans, and it is a romance between Peter Pan as a trans man and Captain Hook. You're welcome. If you're looking for women's fiction, Just As You Are by Camille Kellogg is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. It is so queer. However, it is marketed as a romance, but it is way more women's fiction. There is romance happening in here, but it is not a strict romance. I really enjoyed this though, so I recommend it if you are a Pride and Prejudice fan. Next is Choose Your Own Prompt, and you may be wondering why I didn't say at the beginning that I didn't have anything to recommend you for this, because I don't technically have a book to recommend you, but here are some ideas. If you're looking to read some poetry, you can use poetry for the prompt. You could use any sort of representation, sapphic, trans, etc. Maybe a 2024 release. I'm trying to read some 2024 releases in December, so that's what I might choose. So I hope any of those helped you with that prompt. I might look different because it's been a couple days, but my camera died while I was filming this and I haven't gotten around to finishing it, so we're doing it now. The next prompt is food. I'm a total foodie, so I love this. I love reading books about food, cooking, or baking, so I'm gonna recommend Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera. This is a holiday-themed novella following two Dominican women who are in a baking competition in Scotland. This is very steamy, so if you're looking for some steamy vibes, I highly recommend this. Adriana Herrera is one of my favorite authors, and I love this. The next prompt is magic, so I'm going to recommend one of my favorite graphic novel series. This will also work for the prompt graphic. It's Magical Boy Volume 1 and 2 by The Cow. It is a YA fantasy graphic novel series following a trans boy named Max. He learns that he comes from a lineage of magical girls. This reminds me a lot of Turning Red, just the whole puberty, growing up, and learning that you are from a lineage of people with magical powers. And so essentially this is about a trans superhero. It is so great. I highly recommend it. So if you're looking to fulfill the magical prompt or graphic novel, I highly recommend this. I love this series. There are trigger warnings for gender dysphoria and transphobia. His dad is awesome. I love him a lot. He is very accepting and supportive. However, Max's mom is having a harder time. His dad does an incredible job trying to get the mom on the same page. With his mom, it's more of a cultural thing where this has been in her family for so long and she wanted to have her own magical girl and pass down the family traditions and things like that, and she just cannot wrap her head around the fact that she has a kid who's trans and she won't have a magical girl but a magical boy. I like the way this was done, so if you're looking to pick up a graphic novel, I have to recommend Magical Boy. The next prompt is community. This can have found family, be focused on LGBT centers, or friend groups, so I have a couple recommendations for this. First, I'm gonna recommend a Western, Lucky Red by Claudia Cravens. Lucky Red by Claudia Cravens follows Bridget, a 16-year-old girl whose father passes away and leaves her all alone. She ends up finding a brothel filled with queer women who take her in. There's so much action, suspense, drama, romance, and found family. I love this so much and I highly recommend the audio. If you're able to read audiobooks, I highly recommend reading this with the audio. It is such a better experience. The narrator has a southern accent and you feel so engrossed in the story and the world. Highly recommend this. My next recommendation is a middle grade Camp Quilt Bag by AJ Sass and Nicole Melleby. This is set at a queer camp. We're following Kai and Abigail. Abigail recently discovered that she likes girls, and she confessed to her friends that she likes one of her friends, Stacy's mom. Those girls did not take it well, and Abigail feels very ashamed of even bringing it up and is really confused about her sexuality. And so when she goes to Camp Quilt Bag, it really helps her out. What I love about Camp Quilt Bag is it normalizes neo-pronouns. There are so many different people at Camp Quilt Bag who use different pronouns. There's a counselor who uses any pronouns, and there's a great conversation about that. And there are a couple characters, including Kai, who use neo-pronouns. This is such a heartwarming and comforting story. Camp Quilt Bag has it all, from roller derby to friendship bracelet making to trivia media. There are so many things going on at Camp Quilt Bag. If you're a queer adult who wishes they went to a queer camp, Camp Quilt Bag is the perfect read. And last, I'm going to recommend one of my favorite Christmas reads. This is the epitome of found family, Handmade Holidays by Nathan Bourgoin. I read it a couple years ago in a vlog. We're following our main character Nick through 15 Christmases as his tradition starts to expand and his chosen family begins to grow. He starts a tradition at age 19 when he's starting to live alone for the first time and he's not invited to Christmas with his family, so he creates his own tradition of inviting his friends who have a similar situation to him, and they have to bring an ornament for his tree. They do it every year for 15 Christmases and you get to see how the characters change and grow. I love this a lot, so if you want a holiday read with found family, highly recommend this one. Next is nonfiction, and I have 2 books for this, starting with Real Queer America by Samantha Allen. I have been preaching about this book all year, and I think it is so important for everybody to read this at the moment. Samantha Allen is a trans woman and reporter who ends up going on a road trip to visit queer people in red states. That's basically the bulk of the book. It is very inspiring, and it's very important that we acknowledge the queer and marginalized people in red states who don't want to leave. That is the emphasis in this book, is the queer communities and the queer people who have made a home for themselves in these red states. I think it is so important that we acknowledge that, and if you have that kind of bias where you're like, why can't these people just leave? If you're thinking like that, please pick up this book, buy it, order it from your library, anything. It is required reading at this point. And I'm going to recommend We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. This is a queer Muslim refugee story of Samra and their family escaping from Pakistan to Canada. This is Samra discovering their queerness. It talks about art and culture and gender roles. It is so phenomenal. Next is Disaster Queers, and as somebody who loves to read about messy queers, this was very difficult for me. I feel like as soon as I saw this prompt, my brain just, all of the books escaped it. First, I'm going to recommend You Don't Have a Shot by Raquel Marie. This is a YA rivals to lovers following 2 girls who play soccer, Valentina and Leticia. Valentina's mother passed away and she is dealing with a lot of anger, especially towards Leticia. So when she injures Leticia at the end of the year, her coach brings her aside and tells her she's no longer captain. Valentina is so upset about this. Over the summer, her friends convince her to go to a summer camp with them, and Leticia is there. Basically, they have to learn to put aside their differences and be civil with each other. This is such a great Rivals to Lovers. It talks all about grief, and we get to see more about why Valentina acts the way she does. This is such a great YA, and I think it works perfectly for this prompt. I'm also going to recommend a queer zombie book with satire, The Z Word by Lindsay King Miller, and one of my favorite reads of the year, A Scatter of Light by Melinda Lowe. This also follows a queer girl who is discovering her queerness, but she is forced to live with her grandmother over the summer after something happens at her school, and her summer is not what she expected. Trigger warning for cheating here. That's the one thing I didn't enjoy about this book, but overall I loved it so much. If you want to read about artists and you liked Last Night at the Telegraph Club, this is a companion to that. Next is Hype or No Hype. You just read a book that is very hyped or not hyped at all. So for this, I pulled my highest and lowest rated books on Goodreads. The highest rated was The Magic Fish by Trung Lin Yin, and this is so good. If you're looking for another recommendation for the graphic prompt, oh my god, I love this. And I also think if you've already read it, maybe a reread is necessary. This is about a boy who wants to tell his family that he is gay, but they only speak Vietnamese, so he tries to convey this through fairy tales. My description doesn't even do this book justice. The illustrations are great, and it's probably gonna make you cry, so grab some tissues. And the lowest rated is Pizza Girl by Jean Kyung Fraser. Honestly, I'm not surprised by this. It's a little confusing and it's a literary fiction, but I still think it's a great book. We're following an 18-year-old pregnant pizza delivery girl in the suburbs of California, and she becomes obsessed with one of her customers. This woman starts ordering pickle pizzas, and the main character is so infatuated with her. This is a weird one, but I do think it's well done. Next is Past, Present, or Future. I have a couple recommendations here. For past, I'm recommending a historical romance set in 1751 is The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Kat Sebastian. I read this for one of the rounds of the Queer Lit Readathon and I loved it. This has disability rep, so it will also work for that prompt. This is about a reluctant, reformed highwayman and an aristocat who steals his heart. There is a heist, there is banter, it is grumpy sunshine vibes. I love this so much. And I also recommend the audiobook. I don't have anything for present. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. You could read maybe a 2024 release. Anything that was released in the last couple years works for present, but I have two things for future. Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Galley is a Western novella following librarian spies. It is anti-fascist and near future. Pet by Akwaeke Emezi would be perfect for this. It's speculative fiction and it talks about a reformed life and society. It has emphasis on the monsters not being there anymore, but there is a monster that slips through our main character's canvas and leads her to something going on with one of her friends. There are trigger warnings for child abuse. Our main character, Jam, is a trans girl with selective mutism, so this could also work for disability rep. Down to the last couple prompts. Winter Holiday, I have a few for this. I'll Be Home for Christmas by Mason Deaver is a Christmas novella, companion to I Wish You All the Best. The Geek Who Saved Christmas by Annabeth Albert is an older romance, meaning the characters, I believe, are over 40, and this is set during Christmas, and it is a grumpy sunshine between two neighbors. I really enjoyed this, but it does have sexual content, so please be advised about that. And Adriana Herrera has a Christmas romance, Her Night with Santa, following two women, and one of them is a toy maker and that's all I'm gonna say about that one. Next, for ghosts, I have a couple things here. Alatsuwe by Darcy Little Badger has asexual rep, Lip and Apache representation, and ghost dogs. I also have the prequel that talks about the origins of the ghost dogs, Shayna Linde. And of course, I have to throw in Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This has magic, ghosts, a trans boy, and our side character, Julian Diaz, he has ADHD, so if you want to use it for disability rep, that would work too. I love this. And again, this works for wanting a reread, or if you've never picked up Cemetery Boys before, what are you doing? This is the perfect opportunity. And last is graphic. I already recommended some graphic novels, so my last recommendation is Welcome to St. Hell by Lewis Hancock. This is a graphic memoir about a trans man, and it is following him through high school, pre-transition. Trigger warnings for dead name on the page and misgendering. And those are all of my recommendations for round 14 of the Queer Lit Readathon. All of the links to the hosts and information about the readathon is down below, along with the book titles for everything I have mentioned in this video, along with my affiliate links. If you purchase any book from this video, feel free to use my links. It helps me out a ton if you do. And if you want to help me out for free, the way to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below with any recommendations for any of the prompts. More recommendations the better, especially for maybe some of the ones that I missed or didn't have a lot of recommendations for. Feel free to fill the comments with that. I look forward to chatting with you and getting some book recommendations. If you don't feel like leaving a lengthy comment, you can just leave a book emoji or the rainbow, since this is the Queer Lit Readathon. Thank you to my patrons for their support of this channel, and if you want to support me further, I have a Ko-fi and a Patreon, which I'm using for tip jars. If you're new here, hi, I'm Alex. This is Pucks and Paperbacks, where I love to share about queer and trans books. So if you're into that, feel free to hit subscribe. And if this was not enough queer book recommendations for you, here is my playlist that I would love for you to go and watch. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video very soon. Bye.